Tazchel of Benai, Part 2. The clouds hovered low across the valley, and the mountains shined blue and white in the moonlight, as waves formed in the winds, as underlos clashed with overtos and pockets of water formed in the air. There appeared a flying ship, a silver Ariel. Ferials rose above the clouds, and songbirds gathered on the branches of the trees, and the earth shook again. In the mountains of the west came a giant Galatheath of rock and stone that stood towering over the highest peaks of the western mountains, its right hand upon the peak leaving a mark of the hand of man. It pushed itself into the sky and above the clouds, as the silver Ariel tossed about in the open air of night. The reflection of the moon off the western mountains clashed against the silver Ariel reflection, and between them a Norgoth appeared. The giant clambered over the western peaks and nearly tripped across the brocks of the river's bend. Each step left a mark of silver aquamarine leaves as large as 3 or 4 river bands. Infringed grasses jutted from its toes as soils oppressed sought comfort down below. An ellipsis lowered its branch. The Galatheath towered, and on its shoulders grew the trees gifted from a myrtlein, and over its back fire brush did grow. Moss covered the rocks of its entire body, and as if no open rock was left without such a covering. Agates formed in its fingertips, and its knuckles carried quartz, conglomerates of thistle, and copper-toned quarter-sized blueberries grew from its knees. Lizards nested in its armpits, and birds in its crown. Upon its head rested marble stones shaped of T's and finished in lichen. Its nose resembled the face of a long-haired woman. The Norgoth unsheathed the sword of water, and the clouds let out a pour as they underturned and overturned around the silver Ariel. Galatheath began to see. Nivakian, Navagi, Nivakuan, take away, that you are doing, take away. The western mountains echoed a chambered resound, and the silver Ariel opened fire from cannons and fodder into the eyes of Galatheath. Clouds departed into a thinnion of air as Galatheath covered its eyes. Norgoth teared into the clouds as the river tide did rise, and Galatheath shed pools of bloodied mud into the night sky. Galatheath could not find a return for the silver Ariel, and said, Akith, o dweka mol nivakuan. Ache, what have the muse said of what you have done? Nothing for me. He pulled the log from his shoulder and threw it at the silver Ariel. Cannon shattered the log in the air, and its shrapnel splintered into the night sky. Rinds of the wood laid on the wet grass. Not a moment without a missile from the silver Ariel. Galatheath swung a fist at the silver Ariel, yet was far too slow for such a fight, and when the moon turned blood red, Galatheath lost an eye. Norgoth pointed its sword at the silver Ariel. Galatheath poured blood pools of oily mud. The sword of Aquarii was formed with a recurved bow on one side, and the other only shone a single dot. It was ghost white and silver gray. Its handle, when held in the hands of Norgoth, made it shine. It struck the center of the ellipsis tree, and from its point shot lightning from the earth. Each footstep of the Galatheath sparks arose, and bolts of lightning fed up the back of the Galatheath, when at last from out of the giant's mouth came the sword of thunder. Thunder fell to the earth and struck the earth's soil. Galatheath reached for its sword, and with a grip of agate burst into flames. The silver Ariel spun around at Galatheath, and Galatheath stumbled to turn around to face silver Ariel. Galatheath threw thunder into the wind at the silver Ariel and scraped it. falling into the western mountains. The silver Ariel left it and approached to Galathiath, and the giant grabbed a hold of the silver Ariel. Galathiath ripped its wings off its back and threw the silver Ariel into the clouds, whereupon it was churned into a whirl and a spiral of wind and rain, and the silver Ariel fell. The earth shook as Galathiath returned to the western mountains for another sleep, and left the sword without a flame, and there stood the handle of thunder resembling the face of man. The silver Ariel laid across the river bend and from the ellipsis tree. From the fight collapsed into a sleep, the rains quieted, and the Norgoth vanished. Leaves from the ellipsis tree attempted to cross the river, failed, and left the water blood-red. Under the back of the silver Ariel formed bloodied pools of the grass, and knolls of grass kept its head raised above the night sky, where the stars had reappeared and the clouds subdued, following the Galathiath. Its armor read, Ilkath Rithun de Oath. I'll prepare a depth for an oath, soaked in oil.